Okay, so next up we have Katie McLaughlin, who is here to talk about emoji. She knows many different things, wears many different hats, does JavaScript, Python, PHP, everything, basically. She's pretty amazing. And according to this printout, the name of her talk is The Power, Lightning Bolt, and Responsibility Square of Unicode Adoption Square. Is that right? That's right?
No, but that's fine.
Cool. Okay, so everyone, welcome Katie McLaughlin.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I really like emoji. I love how broken it is. Now, TLDR, because I only have half an hour, because computers, we have Unicode. Unicode is extremely powerful for allowing us to communicate between nearly every written language that ever has been and nearly every language that ever could be. It means that you can send things in whatever language, whatever typeset you want, as long as it's defined under Unicode. There are a million different characters that we can have under Unicode, and we can represent them using different syntaxes. This is for a 16-bit, which I'll be using a little bit throughout this talk. But if we want to go full Unicode, we need to define the 32-bit representation, which takes 8 hexadecimal characters. So, A, let's start at the beginning. A is represented with this thing, which just happens to be exactly how it's represented in ASCII, which is quite cool. You can also represent the Japanese A in Unicode using a different code point. We also have the option to combine certain code points. We can have E, and we can have an accent, and then we can combine them to make an E with an accent. And this works mostly. If I was to write up something in French or in Russian with the specific characters that those languages use and send it to you, if you're using Unicode, you should be able to receive it. You may not be able to read it and translate it into English, but you should be able to receive it byte for byte. The problem. This doesn't work for the Japanese. Not Japanese, the Japanese. Unicode has katakana, kanji, and hiragana, but what it doesn't have is emoji. Well, it didn't. See, back in the 90s, the Japanese, they loved their mobile phones. They all had this very closed network, sort of like how AOL used to be. And the engineers there decided to use some of the extra space in their character encodings to have little pictures. And this was cool. It meant that you could send a penguin or a picture of a horse to your friends. The networks didn't exactly agree on what picture should be in which code, which meant that sometimes you would send an apple and you'd get out a penguin, but that's completely fine, they fixed it. So, Apple comes along. About 2007 or so, they want to release iOS 2 or 3 in Japan. And the Japanese go, well, you're going to add emoji, right? Because this is part of our culture. So, together with some work that Google was doing and the Unicode Consortium, which is an absolutely magnificent term for a group of people that deal with linguistics. They developed and helped implement the Unicode 6 standard, which included emoji. And they put it into iOS 2 for the Japanese market only, and the Japanese were happy. They bought the iPhone, and that's fine. And then iOS 5 happened. And iOS 5 had this little hidden feature which included the emoji keyboard for everyone else, including the United States. And nothing happened. Until one day, allegedly, somebody was playing around on the settings on their phone and went, I can send a picture of poop to my friends. And so they sent the picture, and their friend went, hey, how'd you do that? And the story goes that it just spread like wildfire, which is why people think that Apple invented emoji, but they didn't. So this is 2010. This is a couple of years ago now. So you may recognize some of these particular characters like the apple and the penguin and such, but there have been multiple versions of Unicode that have been released since then. These are all standard emoji characters, including chipmunk, the compression from earlier, Vulcan sign, also known as middle finger splayed. And you also have the last symbol there, which is a man in business suit levitating. Who remembers wingdings? That's why. Wingdings and webdings are now in the Unicode standard, which means that any character you used to be able to type in these fonts is now in Unicode. Anyone remember using, say, Microsoft Office and getting a capital J in the middle of their emails? That's wingdings for smiley face. That's why we needed to have backwards compatibility. And that's why you get businessman in man in business suit levitating. TIL. Last year we had a whole bunch more emoji, including the lion face and tacos, because tacos, and also the Australian smiley. And the one on the end here is quite interesting because you'll notice that it's in a slightly different color. Last year we got Fitzpatrick modifiers, which allows you to have the 6 different Fitzpatrick scale of human skin tone colors. The way this is implemented is you have the character for the rock on, because of course that's now an emoji, but you also have a color. When you combine them together, this makes the one image. And this is really cool because it means you can send an emoji that looks like you. So, this is PyCon. Let's talk about snakes. Snake. Snake. In Python 3, we can use Unicode data as part of the standard library and take any emoji character and return what it actually means. So, input Unicode data, unicode-data.name, snake is snake. You can also go the other way around. You can use an escape sequence with the /N to be able to work out what the emoji is. Escape sequences, good for Unicode and gravitational fields. There you go. Science jokes. This is all in Python 3.3 and onwards. You can also use the decode escape, so you can translate it into the /U as we saw earlier, and you can also translate it back again just using a normal escape sequence. This is all Python 3. This will not work in Python 2. Use Python 3. It works with emoji. So, this all works fine, but there are some issues with emoji. I posit that because of the speed of Unicode adoption that had to happen, especially on Android platforms, that the implementations were a bit rushed. Now, Apple had all the time in the world to set up and get the standard, which is why all the emoji you see are normally the Apple or international standard of emoji. Android, trying to keep up with Apple as they do, had to implement emoji very quickly. This is a yellow heart. It is yellow. Say it with me, yellow, yellow. The image on the left here is how it's defined in the Unicode standard. This hatching is the same hatching as is used on English heraldry shields, and it's supposed to represent gold. Different stripes mean different colors. So you can have red and green and blue because the documentation standards of the medieval times didn't really have a lot of colors. This is yellow. Yellow. Android 4.4. So you can see the kind of problems we're going to have if you're trying to send an emoji from Apple into Android. There's a little bit of miscommunication involved there, and you can see how this could get a bit hairy. It gets better. This is flushed face. Now, this is the Apple, Emoji One, Twitter, and Android implementations of flushed face. The first 3 look like it's like, oh, I've done something wrong. The last one looks like I'm going, nah, and taking credit for something. I used to use the last one a lot until I realized how it was being misinterpreted. This one, this is supposed to be hugging. This is what I see. Microservices. You see, I'm used to something like this. This is what I used to use as hugging because I used to use MSN Messenger. Who remembers MSN Messenger? Yay, that's the second Microsoft reference, and I haven't been booed off stage. I love this community. We also have clapping. Now, you've done this a few times already. However, if you've noticed, you put your palm and your other palm together. The one on the end is Windows. Have you ever tried to clap with your thumbs facing in there? If you have rings and really strong knuckles, it starts to hurt after a while. Microsoft, yeah. Oh, can anyone take a guess what this emoji? This is the same emoji across different platforms. Anyone want to have a guess at what it is? Blonde. So what exactly is going on? Different platforms just want to put things in different ways. Sorry, Facebook, but the one on the end there is what you used to have for question mark. It is fixed now, mostly, because you did your whole rebranding, which I'll mention later, but you can still use this in certain parts of Facebook. You might want to fix that. Come talk to me afterwards and I'll help. There has also been entire scientific papers on this, which is great, because I thought this was a thing and it's been scienced. The University of Minnesota has released a paper, Blissfully Happy or Ready to Fight, Various Interpretations of Emoji. The one on the left is grinning, the one on the right is grimace. The only difference is the eyes. If you were to get one of those, you would have no idea what they meant. So, that's all the problems. How do we get new emoji into this thing? Well, there are things that you can do. Anyone, the public, can submit to the Unicode Consortium and submit a proposal for a new emoji. Things that will get you accepted. Backwards compatibility, like with our levitating man earlier. There is now a cowboy emoji because Yahoo Messenger has cowboy, and that wasn't previously in the standard. Also, if it completes a set. One version of Unicode didn't have the complete zodiac set. Yeah. Also, if lots of people just request it anyway, and that's how we get tacos, because tacos. Things that won't get you accepted if it's overly specific. So we already have a glass of wine, a martini, and a tropical fruit drink, so Manhattans aren't coming into the standard anytime soon. Also, you're never, ever, ever supposed to have any logos or brands ever, so there's no way that you can tell that this is all Apple, ever. Absolutely no way that you can tell that this is Apple, right? Yeah. Also, no fads or memes. Vulcan sign, anyone? The thing is, when we get all these new emoji coming out, there's issues with backwards compatibility. Has anyone seen the sign outside on the door when they came in? That just worked. That may not have worked. Richard said it wouldn't. But sometimes you end up seeing characters like this. What you're seeing here is you're seeing older versions of systems that don't have the new Unicode characters. So in my abstract on the website, there is a thinking face. If you're using Android 5 or if you're using Yosemite, OS X Yosemite, you will see a box. Now, there are ways to get around this. What you do is you update your operating system. You get new emoji and, just some security updates and stuff. But new emoji, yeah? The one place where this has to work, though, is URLs, because you can't just have the entire world with URLs using just Latin characters. And emoji works here. This is a valid website. Spoon.ws is a valid website that I've registered, and it details spoon theory. Spoon theory is extremely important. If you would like to know more, go to this website. The way that you're able to do this is with an RFC that's actually quite old now. It's like over a decade old. What it defines is Unicode encoding. You can do this in Python 3, where you can import encodings.idna, and you can translate emoji or any Unicode characters into a code, and it's reversible. It looks a bit weird, but the codes are all there. There's JavaScript implementations, there's Python implementations. I don't have time to go into the algorithm now. However, how do you actually enter that spoon? How do you type in your characters? Normally, on your mobile, you have, say, a little smiley face underneath your enter key, such as with swipe and swift key. A lot of the vendors now have this as native as well. On OS X, you can use a combination of Command, Option, and Space to bring up a emoji searchable option, which also allows you to do full text searching, which means you can type in 7 and you can get the Roman numeral 7, which is fun. You can also, there's now, Kenneth Wrights has developed EM Keyboard, which allows you to use the proper names for the emoji in your console, and it'll copy the emoji to your clipboard. So you can get sparkles, cake sparkles really easily. Or, if you don't want to have CLIs or whatever, you could just make an entire emoji keyboard. This is a project by Tom Scott who connected together 14 mechanical keyboards, a little bit of Lua, and auto hotkey to be able to have one button for each emoji. And it's this big table worth of keyboard. It works. The code, I've got the code if you're interested in Lua scripting and stuff. This is also the same person behind Emojily, an emoji-only network. Your usernames had to be emoji, so you can imagine how well that did. They had venture capitalists wanting to give them money. There you go. But on the web, so on the web is a bit of an interesting beast. Who here uses Slack and GitHub? You might be familiar with shortcodes. This is a picture of cake. To get cake on Slack or GitHub, you use colons and then the word that you want, and you get cake. But on HipChat, if you want cake, you don't use colons, you use brackets, braces, the curly bits. And it comes up with a different type of cake, because cake doesn't equal cake. And I'm sorry, but these aren't emoji, these are emoticons or picture glyphs. They're not emoji. Party parrot is not an emoji. I'm sorry. But these different systems have so many different customizations and they don't go across platforms, so these aren't emoji. Sorry. Also, if you have any say in implementing any of these systems, please allow me to disable autocorrect. Because I don't know how many different systems where a simple smiley will make my mood just increasingly elevated in happiness, or take what I interpret as an embarrassed face and turn it into money mouth, which is now an emoji. But who's a web developer? Yay, speaking to people who can fix this stuff. If you're developing for the web and you want to be able to read these things back to your users, you have absolute complete control. You do not have to let the system decide how things are represented for you. If I can make a suggestion, just one, use fallback images. Do not rely on the operating system's implementations of emoji, because you're going to have all the different variations of all the different operating systems. You're going to have the missing glyphs depending on which version you're using. And don't try to get around this by using user agents and stuff. It just won't work. So the next slide is the only slide in this talk that has actual emoji. The rest have been images. I'm running LCAP and it doesn't work. Two of the images up the top there don't actually represent as emoji, they're text. I have to add an extra character onto the end to say, give me the emoji representation for these to work. And the one on the end is supposed to be a kiwi fruit, but LCAP doesn't have the latest Unicode standard, so it doesn't work. You should use fallback images. Some of this has been done for you with, oh gosh, how do I pronounce this? Twimoji? Twimoji.js, there you go. WordPress.com uses this. What it does is when you render your page out, the JavaScript will find all the emoji characters and replace them with images. This is great. They do it with on the Twitter website, on WordPress. I've seen it in a few other places. And this mostly works. It at least gets around when you don't have the characters locally. But we can raise the bar here. Yes, raising bar. Come on. Okay. Alt text, also known as highlights. When you copy an image, when you drag and select and copy an image, the alt text is what goes into your clipboard. You can also have the mouse overs or the tooltips, which if you mouse over an image, it'll have a title text. And if you combine this with web accessibility, you can have a very good implementation that would allow you to fall back to a version of emoji that will actually work for most users. This is an example. This is the tumbler glass or whiskey emoji, which is now an emoji. And this is what I think you should be doing if you're trying to use emoji on your websites. You use your fallback image, you have the alt text as the character, you have the title text, and you also have the ARIA label as well. So you combine all this together and you're able to get a emoji. You can mouse over it, see what it's supposed to represent, so you get rid of the issues with grinning face versus grimacing. You can copy and paste it, so inline images are copied as Unicode text, and you also have the compatibility for screen readers. Conference-driven development, what's that? Emojificate is installable from the PyPI package repository, and it is a runnable module in Python 3. It is also a Django tag template module, which will do all this for you. I released it about 5 days ago now, so get on that. Also, if you're going to be using websites, just make sure you have your meta char set to UTF-8, because otherwise you get a whole load more problems if you're using jQuery or any sort of templating language and stuff. This is normally done for you, but if you're doing base HTML, just add this. So, the future of emoji, guess what we're getting? We're getting new emoji. Actually, we just got it a couple of weeks ago because Unicode 9 has just dropped, which means we now have such timeless classics as facepalm and shrug, cowboy. We also have an egg. We used to have chicken, so now you know what came first. We also have duck and owl. And there's some sort of sports thing happening in South America, so there's a whole lot of emoji to do with that as well. There is now a water polo emoji because the Olympics. There are also some placeholders already for next year's emoji set, including the Stephen Colbert face, allegedly. These are still a work in progress. Do not implement any of these yet. We've also had, in the last couple of weeks, a whole bunch of updates happening. So, in Android, the flushing face from before is changing. I don't know whether the last one is supposed to be a duck face, but this is all the same character on Android 5, 6, and the new Nougat one, which hasn't been released yet. Facebook have also updated their emoji. Let's take all the images and let's point them that way. Windows, the anniversary edition of Windows 10 now has new emoji, which fixes a lot of the issues they had. And they actually look quite nice now. That's kind of cool. iOS 10 beta has also been released. They don't have the new emoji yet, but what they have done is fixed the darn grinning face so it actually looks grinning. So that's great. But you don't need to update your operating systems to get the new emoji. There are some vendors that will do it for you, such as with zero width joiners. There is a proposal that's just been accepted that was put in from the Google people in the consortium that defines a whole bunch of combinations of existing characters into new ones, such as if you combine the white flag and the rainbow emoji, you get a rainbow flag. This has been implemented on Twitter Web. It is also in iOS beta. It's hiding around near where the other flags are on the keyboard. But this is great. What's also been added is gender modifiers. Finally, I can be a policewoman if I want to now. Previously, these were all men gendered only, which means I can be a policeman, I can be a construction worker, I can be a golfer. That's great. And it also goes the other way. These were all previously female representations only and you had no way to change it. So it means you can send that you're getting a haircut or a face massage if you're a guy, and that's great. And I think that's really cool. These are all images based from Emojipedia, which is a thing, and it's awesome. So like Wikipedia except for emoji. I don't have access to any of the Apple stuff yet, so I'm going based on what they're reporting. So, some takeaways. There is a lot of power in speech, and emoji allow us an additional layer of communication, but we still need to implement and think about what we're sending people because they're just prone to misinterpretations. But just have a little fun with them. There's nothing wrong with just having a smiley face in things. And sparkles. Sparkles are great. And that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. So we have 5 or 6 minutes for questions. So if you would like to form a orderly line, questions, come on, Russell.
Hi, so I'm old.
Hi, old.
Boom, boom. And even though I've got 20/20 vision, one of my biggest problems with emoji is that someone sends me grimace, someone sends me happy face, and I end up squinting on this little tiny screen trying to work out what's going on. does either the Emoji Consortium or any other...
Sorry, the Emoji
No, it's
Consortium.
Emoji Consortium, Unicode Consortium. That's all they do, right?
No.
Do they have any guidelines or suggestions for how big these darn things can be so that you can see what they are?
Are you talking about mobile or web?
All of the above.
So I don't believe they do, because most of what they do is dictate exactly what characters go where, as opposed to the implementations. They have retrofitted a lot of their documents to reflect what vendors have done. Now, a lot of the emoji that I used in this talk from Apple were really small versions, because Apple's glyphs are really tiny, but they were implementing what the Japanese had, which was only 12 by 12 or 16 by 16 anyway. How to fix that? I would love it if on mobile natively, if you were to click and hold on an emoji, it would pop it up. Say, I believe some browsers do that now with title text on images. I know that if I press and hold on XKCD, it'll show me the cool alt text. Maybe if they could have that implemented as standard, that would make it so it's like the people like you without perfect vision can see the bigger ones. That would be cool, but they don't define anything.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, there's more people.
There's more people. Colour. So you talked about the colour modifiers, which can be applied to presumably any glyph. Is that kind of the model?
No. So the colour modifiers are just the 6 major colours of the human skin spectrum, and they're only applied to human-related emoji. So the snowboarder, the surfer, all the hands, all the faces, it doesn't allow you to change the colours of just any emoji.
So what's the deal with colours for emojis in general? Are they whatever the artist thinks on the day? I mean...
What do you mean?
So all of your examples here are in pretty colours. You have yellow hearts and purple hearts with hair on them and stuff. I mean, so what I'm getting at is it seems to me this is a bit of mission creep. Like when you're rendering glyphs for natural languages, English or Japanese or whatever, you often have some other mechanism for defining the colours. If it's a web page, it'll be CSS. It says, this is my foreground colour, this is my background colour, here's my text in those foreground and background colours. And suddenly there's an emoji in the middle of your text stream. What if that doesn't, it's specifying its own colour? How does that work with all the other colours going on your web page?
So it doesn't. There was a proposal to have CSS modifiers that would interact with emoji, but at the moment CSS does not interact with emoji in respect to colours. And apart from the Fitzpatrick modifiers, there's no way to modify a colour of an emoji.
Right. So you could imagine a case where an emoji might be very hard to see if you accidentally, if the background of your web page sort of was a very close colour. Let's say for some reason the background was yellow and then you put a yellow emoji on top.
I would be more worried why your background is yellow.
Sure. But that's kind of a separate discussion. There might be a good reason for it, an alert box or something. Who knows? Anyway, it just seemed like a bit of mission creep to me. That's all. Anyway.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for a very entertaining talk. I'm interested if you have any comment about kind of web fonts and things like Font Awesome, which seem to me kind of almost, augment emoji so that you can kind of have any kind of little icons that, aren't part of emoji.
Okay, so where Font Awesome comes into this is more like how Wingdings and Webdings used to work, where you could have stylized specific things, and I was under the impression it was more of a case for performance as opposed to having all the little images everywhere, and because it's a font it can scale really well, just like the alternative would be to use just individual SVGs. Font Awesome has its place, but this is Font Awesome, you have to have the font on your system or import it into your web page for it to work. These are universal, hence why it's universal encoding.
Thanks for a very cool talk. What's your experience been like with browser support for IRIs? And you've got spoon.ws. Does that work across all of the different browsers?
Yes, because when you have the Unicode encoding, the XN-9F9N or whatever it was, you can type that in and you can go to the website and it'll either resolve it in your URL bar as the emoji because it'll work it out, or it'll have it as the Unicode thing, and that will work in all browsers, which is why you have the Latin conversion. I've not seen a browser that doesn't work with that, but I haven't used links and tried to do all the edge cases for that.
What about with confusables, things like google.com, division sign.com? That sort of thing raises security issues for people that see the link and they see the division sign and think it's a slash. They think it's a link to google.com. Have you seen any issues with this sort of thing?
There is stuff in that RFC about confusable characters. One of the examples they use is an I that doesn't have the dot. There's a whole bunch of security and stuff related to this, and I don't nearly have enough time to include it in this talk. But if you want to grab me later, I can point you to the different references and stuff.
Thank you very much, Katie. So we've got 10 minutes until the next session, so everyone give her a round of applause.